They thought she was just an old black woman, 78, alone, fragile-looking, easy to push around. But what they didn't know was that she once led the most elite covert unit in the U.S. military, and all it took was one whispered sentence into a cracked phone: "Mockingbird is down, for hell to follow." Let me back up a sec. Mildred Langston had lived a quiet life for the past decade in the small southern town of Rosewood Falls, Tennessee. She grew marigolds in memory of her late husband, another vet who died slow from Agent Orange. She volunteered at the local vet center, baked pies for the church sale, and kept to herself. The kind of woman folks wave to from the porch but never really see. But something had changed in Rosewood Falls. 6 months earlier, a slick-talking man named Clayton Reese became mayor, preaching heritage and restoring order. That was code, and Mildred knew it. Suddenly, there were patrol cars crawling the east side, Confederate flags waving in shop windows, and somehow the town council found money to restore a statue of a Confederate general, while cutting funding for the Veteran Center by nearly half. Still, Mildred held her ground. She'd been invisible once, deep in the jungle of Vietnam, gathering intelligence behind enemy lines. She knew how to wait, and how to act. But the final straw? It came on a humid Thursday afternoon. She was picking up groceries, just bread, beans, and her late husband's favorite sweet tea, when 3 young white men followed her from the store. She knew the look. One of them spit the word relic at her. Another called her a black parasite living off their taxes. The third pushed her down, hard. She hit the pavement, blood dripping down her cheek. They grabbed the medals she wore on her coat, her husband's and hers, and laughed. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just lay there, reached for her phone, and made one call. "Mockingbird is down." Now, to anyone else, it's meaningless. But to the 5 people scattered across the country who heard it, it was the return of a war. See, the Mockingbirds weren't just any unit. They were a top-secret, all-black military intelligence team, hand-picked because the system thought no one would notice them. And that was their edge. Within 48 hours, they arrived. A former judge from Atlanta, a retired pharmaceutical exec from Chicago, a cybersecurity specialist from D.C., even a former preacher, now part-time trucker, who once buried documents behind enemy lines like they were time capsules. All of them in their 60s and 70s. All of them lethal in ways folks in Rosewood Falls couldn't imagine. Mayor Reese brushed it off as some veteran reunion. He even sent a patrol to check on Mildred. They knocked on her door, tried to peer inside, muttered about agitators. Mildred just smiled and said, "They're old friends. Come to remind me who I used to be." In reality, her living room had become a command post. Laptops open, maps pinned, timelines sketched, every voice calm, precise. Age had weathered their bodies, but not their minds. That's when the retaliation began. Ray, the judge, followed the boys who assaulted her to a bar and recorded them bragging about how Dad's cleaning house, about how these folks need to learn who runs this town. One of them? Cody Reese, the mayor's own son. The footage was damning, but more chilling was what followed. First, Mildred's power was cut. Twice. Then came the voice outside her window. "Leave now or burn with it." The next morning, her house went up in flames. Total loss. But the real message was fear, control, intimidation. They weren't backing down. They had their proof. They had their team. And soon, they had something bigger. A leak from inside. A young vet named Jalen, whom Mildred once defended at a town meeting, showed up whispering, "They're planning something big. Mayor's working with state troopers, maybe even higher." By then, Marcus, another ally, had gone missing. Official word? He was detained after resisting arrest. But a nurse confided in Maria, the judge, that he'd shown up with handcuff marks and injuries that didn't match the story. 2 days later, he was transferred, heavily sedated, to a private psychiatric facility. Out of reach. Still, the Mockingbirds knew how to fly under radar. They moved to a rented cabin on the outskirts, kept rotating locations, uploaded evidence to a secure cloud, and contacted every veteran and civil rights group they'd ever touched. The network lit up like wildfire. Then came the twist no one expected. Mildred walked into the Nashville Sentinel with a folder thicker than a Bible. Surveillance photos, wire transfers, budget sheets showing taxpayer money routed through dummy nonprofits into Reese's pocket, Fire reports labeled faulty wiring with images showing accelerant residue. The editor, skeptical at first, went pale by page 3. News broke. National media descended. The mayor panicked. He held a press conference, sweating through his shirt, blaming radical elements and dishonest veterans. But this time, reporters asked questions, big ones. Why were so many veterans speaking out? Why had 2 buildings burned? Why were certain files missing from county records? That's when the FBI landed. Literally. Helicopter blades chopped through the morning silence. Agents from the Public Corruption Division. They didn't ask for permission. They came with warrants. Mildred didn't gloat. She didn't cheer. But when they handed her back her medals, repolished, shining under the sun, she let one tear fall. Not for revenge. For the years stolen by silence. Cody Reese was arrested. So was his father. The police chief. Several council members. All charged federally, with civil rights violations, corruption, arson, and attempted murder. But justice didn't end in handcuffs. Raymond launched a legal fund for minority veterans. James redirected his company's resources to treat PTSD in black vets. Maria started a scholarship named after Pastor Elijah, the man who'd died warning them of an incoming raid, shot while defending his church. And Marcus? He recovered, enrolled in law school, said he wanted to make systems so airtight no one like Reese could ever twist them again. On a quiet spring afternoon, Mildred stood on a rebuilt porch, watching children play in the grass. A new plaque stood by the church. In honor of those who fought for us, then and now. Her voice was steady when she said, "The fight for justice doesn't have an age limit or an expiration date." And maybe the most beautiful part? It wasn't just the old mockingbirds flying again. It was the kids watching them, learning how to fly too. Now let me ask you, do you think they went too far? Or not far enough? Hit that like button if you believe veterans deserve respect no matter their color. Drop a comment if you've ever seen injustice and wanted to fight back. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories where justice doesn't wait politely at the door. Let's talk about it.